Here we are on a Monday night, ready to bring you guys more content on the NFL. Today I want to get to my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL today, as well as my top 5 wide receiver duos. So, are you ready to get your fix? Starting with my top 10 quarterbacks in today's NFL. This list will be in order, starting with my 10th, going all the way down to my number 1 guy. So let's get started with my 10th best quarterback in the league, Carson Wentz. Now I have Carson 10 because this guy, his first 4 seasons, he threw for 3,782 yards, then 3,296 yards, and then 3,074 yards, and then last season he threw for 4,039 yards. If you ask me, those are really, really good numbers for being young and consistently putting up those numbers, even while being hurt and getting injured. He also rarely throws any picks. Okay, his first season he had 14, but then his last 3 seasons he only had about 7. So, those 3 seasons also he had 33 touchdowns and 21 touchdowns, and then last year with 27. So, he's a very good quarterback, who really doesn't have any great wide receivers to throw to. Nelson Aguilar's there, Alshon Jeffrey's there. It's not that great of a crew. Now we're going to move over to my 9th guy. I got Deshaun Watson here at 9. I got him at 9 because, he's a very solid starter who the past 2 seasons thrown for 4,165 yards and then 3,852 yards. Now, he's very capable of moving that ball down the field and giving the offense a chance to score. I just don't think he's got what it takes to consistently bring this team to the playoffs. So that's why he's my number 9 guy. And, this is going to be an interesting year for Watson. Being that he doesn't have DeAndre Hopkins anymore, he has subpar weapons now instead of what he used to have. So expect Deshaun Watson to possibly be gone, not be a Texan after this upcoming season. It's going to be very interesting. Now on to my 8th guy, I got Josh Allen. Josh Allen has had 2 seasons in the NFL, with his first being a little rocky. Granted, he didn't have too many weapons, but he greatly improved last season. He threw for 3,089 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. This is, I feel, a pretty good stats for a young quarterback who only had John Brown and Cole Beasley really to throw the ball to. Not to mention that, he led the Buffalo Bills to a playoff berth last year where they were up 16-0 and ended up losing in overtime 22-19 to the Houston Texans. I know that's kind of contradicting my number 9 guy, Deshaun Watson, but you got to realize he's not going to be there consistently with the team that he has with the Houston Texans. So that's why I got Josh Allen here. With being a young guy for Josh Allen and being able to lead a team with not a whole lot of talent to a playoff berth is really one of the main reasons I got Josh Allen at 8. And with the addition of Stephon Diggs, things could get really interesting for him. It really could boost his career in a way. So at my number 7 slot, I got Kyler Murray. He had a phenomenal rookie season. He threw for 3,722 yards with 20 touchdowns and only 12 interceptions. Almost throw for 4,000 yards in a rookie season. It's pretty awesome. Let's not forget the fact that he really doesn't have the greatest offensive line to protect him. He only has one really reliable receiver in Larry Fitzgerald. And, he was able to bring the Cardinals, who really haven't been able to do much, to a 5-10-1 record last year. And they're looking even better this year. Just like how Josh Allen got Stephon Diggs, Kyler Murray now has one of the best wide receivers on his team, DeAndre Hopkins, because of this offseason movement and trade. It's not going to surprise me if he gets more than 4,000 plus yards and 20 plus touchdowns and under 10 interceptions this upcoming season. Now, moving to my 6th guy, I got Drew Brees. This was a tough one, but after looking at the stats, it looks like Drew Brees is starting to kind of slow down a little bit more than he has in the past. Don't get me wrong. He's very consistent and still makes little to no mistakes. And he doesn't put up as many passing yards, but he's still able to get the job done. He has Alvin Kamara in the backfield. I think now they have Latavius Murray also in the background. So he's able, to still get the job done. He's just not used to putting up numbers that he was able to do in previous years. I also feel like he's starting to get hurt more and more. Last season, we seen him miss 5 games. I think it was a broken thumb, I believe. And the year before that, I'm pretty sure he sat out a couple games because of an injury too. He does still have the option to throw the ball to Michael Thomas and put points on the board. But one of the main reasons I got Drew Brees 6 is because when he got hurt last year, like I just announced, Teddy Bridgewater was able to come in, lead the New Orleans Saints to a 5-0 record. So, I mean, is Drew really that great now? Or is the system he in just making him look way better than he is? It's kind of like how Tom Brady, when he was injured in New England, when Jimmy Garoppolo came in and did just fine. You know, when Matt Castle came in and did just fine. Jacoby Brissett came in, did just fine. Is it the system or is it the player? So it's one of those scenarios where you're not really sure. But it's going to be fun to kind of watch him progress and see if maybe he pulls a Tom Brady and a Peyton Manning next year and decides, I'm out of the Saints, I'm going to go somewhere else. Or if he decides to hang it up. Moving to my number 5 guy, who is Aaron Rodgers. Now, I got Aaron Rodgers at 5 because the past 2 seasons he's put up 4,442 yards and 4,002 yards with a combined 51 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. I think I mentioned that, I believe it was either Monday or last week. Or not Monday. Friday or sometime last week. So, like I mentioned in one of my previous discussions, he's able to get the job done year in and year out. Puts up ridiculous numbers, just does it. Just goes out in the field, does his job, goes home, and repeat. I mean, there's many people ripping Rodgers, saying that he's afraid to really force the ball to his wide receivers. But you got to understand, that was the main reason the Packers went 13-3 instead of 9-7. Because Rodgers kept the Packers in the game at all times. I mean, this guy's career's passer rating is 102.4, which I'm pretty sure is the best of all time out of any quarterback that's ever been in this league. Okay, this guy just is absolutely ridiculous. The forcing the ball, you know, if he forces a lot of those passes, like I said, 9-7 is going to happen. He's going to have those interceptions. I had a buddy not too long ago just tell me, I think it was yesterday or today, that he has 359 consecutive passes with no interceptions. I don't know how you do it, but you do. He's a really good quarterback. I mean, I put him at 5 also for the fact that this will be an interesting year, being that the Packers drafted Jordan Love. So we're going to see, you know, if he's got a fire under his butt or if he's going to, you know, be the same old Rodgers, even though that's still a very, very good version, and the Packers move on from him next season. So going to my number 4 guy, I got quarterback Tom Brady. Now I got Tom at 4 because, you know, the only receiver Brady has really had in these past couple seasons, has not been that great. I mean, it's been Julian Edelman, who was a good receiver, but not a great one. He had N'Keal Harry, but I'm not sold on him. He had very, very big issues, I felt. There was one game I was watching, I can't remember if it was in the playoffs or late last season, but there was 2 routes and he was jogging. Like, I'm talking, I could jog faster. It was more of like a lollygag kind of thing, like a drag my feet walking kind of thing. It was really ridiculous, and I don't think that's what Tom wants, and that's 100% the reason why Tom was always angry. You know, I mean, Tom the past 2 seasons, he's thrown for 4,355 yards and 4,057 yards with a combined 53 touchdowns and 19 interceptions. Now, I mean, you're probably wondering, well, why isn't Rodgers ahead of Brady because of those stats? Well, Rodgers has had a consistent weapon. Okay, he's had a consistent weapon in Devontae Adams, and then previously before that, Jordy Nelson, and then previously before that, I think it was Greg Jennings and maybe Donald Driver, I want to say, but I'm not really sure if they played together. So, I mean, if you look, Brady has really only had in the past Gronk. Okay, really, that's kind of all he's had. I mean, yeah, he has Julian Edelman, but like I said, he's not great. He's a good receiver. He's, in my eyes, he's like an Adam Thielen from Minnesota. He's not going to be that great, that 5-star receiver that everybody wants. He's going to be that 3-star receiver who's going to be consistent, who's going to catch that ball, who's going to run really good routes, and he's going to make that quarterback love him. I mean, and Antonio Brown really doesn't count either because he only played 1 game. And like I said with Gronk, he hasn't played with Brady in a couple years, and Brady's still been able to take the Patriots to the playoffs without him year in and year out with little to no problems. I mean, so right there, I feel like he has to be there. He has to be there because he's consistent in the playoffs. He never screws up. Rodgers has had a consistent weapon with Devontae Adams. Okay, and he's usually consistently in the playoffs, or is usually in the fight for the playoffs. So that's why I got Tom ahead of him at number 4. Now, for my 3rd best quarterback in the NFL, I got Lamar Jackson. Now, some people will probably, you know, not like this and disagree with this selection. But I feel it's reasonable, being that he's only played 2 seasons in the NFL and only started one of those seasons fully. I mean, Lamar's first season as a rookie, he started 7 games. He threw for 1,201 yards with 6 touchdowns and 3 picks. So, not a terrible season, but he definitely could have produced a little better with less interceptions. But, however, Lamar amped up his game last season with throwing 3,127 yards with only 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. Oh, and, not to mention he also had 1,206 rushing yards with 7 rushing touchdowns. I mean, these are phenomenal stats, and that's the reason he won the MVP last year, is because he's able to go out there and produce numbers at a ridiculous pace and not slow up. I mean, he has a problem with sliding, like I mentioned way back when, but he's going to fix that. If he fixed that, who's to say he can't have 3,000 with 1,500 rushing yards? He's absolutely ridiculous. I don't think he's quite up there at a number 2 and a number 1 quarterback in today's NFL, being that he hasn't played that much, and people of this kind of caliber can all of a sudden take a stage dive and now they're gone. Just like RG3 after he tore his ACL, where was he now? RG3 is Lamar's backup now. Probably a really good one, really fast one, but it's not like what it should be. I mean, I got Lamar mainly at 3 because he's, like I said, he's still super young. Anything can happen at any moment. Like I said, they can fall off a cliff and you don't know where they went. Now they're the worst quarterback to play. Now they probably don't even have a job, like a Tim Tebow, something like that. I mean, this is going to be a big test year to see if Lamar Jackson is still a top-tier quarterback in this league. If he puts up the same numbers, you can bet he's going to be number 1, number 2 in my number 1 or number 2 slot for best quarterbacks in today. So now we're going to go and switch gears over to my number 2 guy, Patrick Mahomes. Now, you probably disagree with this one too, but, this was an easy selection, mainly because within 2 years of the NFL, he's thrown for 5,097 yards, and then he threw for 4,031 yards last year with a combined 76 touchdowns, 18 interceptions. Ridiculous numbers, just how, Lamar probably could have put that up if he played his whole rookie year instead of waiting for Joe Flacco to kind of screw up. But, I mean, to put those numbers up, like I say, being so young, consistent, with little to no problems at all. I mean, this guy throws sidearm with no look. It's like a circus out there, and yet he can still throw for 4,000 to 5,000 yards. And I'm pretty sure he had 55 touchdown passes last year, his rookie year. So, it might have been last year. But anyways, 55 touchdowns in a year, that's still nuts. I mean, not to mention he just took the Chiefs to a Super Bowl victory over the San Francisco 49ers. This kid has what it takes. He darn near has won the MVP 2 times out of his 2 seasons. He won in his rookie year, or not his rookie year. He's been in the league 3 years, under Alex Smith has won, but his past 2 seasons, so his second year he won the MVP, and then last year he very easily could have won the MVP. Very easily, Lamar put on way more of a show, and he was the more valuable player in the NFL, I felt, last year. But very close. I mean, he definitely puts up a fight for the best quarterback in the NFL. He could be so in the upcoming years. But like I said, being that young, how is he going to transition into this year? And then is he going to keep going on from this year to next year and then throughout his whole career? So that's where I stand with that. Now finally, on my number 1 quarterback in the NFL today, I got Russell Wilson. Many of you probably are waiting to hear that name in this whole top 10. Now I was going to go with Patrick Mahomes, but then I got talking with my friend John about who he thinks is the best quarterback and why. And, he really made me rethink my selection. Russell Wilson has been so consistent throughout his career. He throws magnificent balls. He can pinpoint where he needs to put the ball, and he never gets hurt. Okay? I mean, in 8 seasons, Russell Wilson has made the playoffs 7 times. 7 times out of 8. Pretty good if you ask me. So, I mean, he consistently throws for 3,500 yards to 4,000 yards. In the past 3 seasons, he's had over 30 touchdowns each year. I'm pretty sure it was 31, 34, and 33 or something like that. But being as consistent as he is, I mean, this is a no-brainer. An absolute no-brainer. And it really shocks me how he's never, ever received a vote for MVP in his career. Because to be able to do that consistently for 8 years, the past 8 seasons, and now you're coming in your 9th year, and you're more than likely going to do it again with. He's had good receivers. He hasn't had any great receivers. So you tell me why he hasn't won an MVP or even received a vote for MVP, for how consistent he is and how easy it is for him to win games with Seattle, bring him to the playoffs, win playoff games. I mean, he led them to a Super Bowl against New England Patriots, and he still didn't receive an MVP vote? Kind of ridiculous in my eyes. And for that sole reason, I think this very well could be the year Russell Wilson wins MVP. It's going to be between Russell, Lamar, and Patrick Mahomes. That's what I think is going to happen. It's going to be between those three. And it's going to be very interesting. So now, I just gave you my top 10 quarterbacks. Feel free to comment and who you think should be where and if I should change it up or just any suggestions, really. But now I want to switch gears to my top 5 wide receiver duos. So let's start with my number 5. This is going to be the same way. It's going to go 5-1. At my number 5, I got DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. Now, this is a duo that's going to be able to be very explosive and move the ball downfield and put points on the board. With the addition of DeAndre Hopkins, you got more spectacular catches that are going to happen and more precise route running. You know, he loves to go get the ball. And then with Larry, you got a future Hall of Famer who never drops the ball and is so fundamentally sound that you're never afraid to just throw him the ball because he's gonna get the job done. Okay, I mainly got these guys down here. I know DeAndre Hopkins is one of the better receivers, but as a duo, I feel like they're gonna produce, but it's gonna be a little harder to produce, being that you have a superstar and then you have a Hall of Famer. Larry is definitely gonna take less catches, less reps, and everything, but that's why I kind of got them, because it's gonna be more of the DeAndre Hopkins show, not the DeAndre and Larry show. So that's where I got them at 5. So at number 4, I got Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins. Now, I don't have them ranked higher because Sammy Watkins has kind of been hit or miss throughout his career. I mean, so that means that this duo has the potential to not produce the numbers that they should. Okay, Sammy Watkins, don't get me wrong, is very good. He did a very, very well, very, very good job last season with Patrick Mahomes. But Tyreek Hill kind of outshines him in a way just because of his speed. You know, I feel like a Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce duo is way better than a Tyreek and Sammy Watkins duo, just because Sammy Watkins can, like I said, be very hit or miss, so that's why I got him at 4. I have him over DeAndre and Larry, though, mainly because of that speed and having both not be great. It's a little bit easier to spread the ball out to those two. So that's why I got them at 4. Now, at number 3, I got the duo of Michael Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders for the Saints. Now, this is going to be a very solid duo who's going to put up decent numbers, but I don't think we're going to see Michael Thomas catch more than 149 passes like he did last season due to this addition of Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders played for, he started last year with Broncos, I believe, and then he went over to the 49ers where he went to the Super Bowl, and he had that wide open pass, but Jimmy overthrew him in the end zone, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, they're going to be just fine. Michael Thomas is still going to be able to put up those stats in the receiving yards, but Emmanuel Sanders is going to take some of that away, and, it's going to be interesting. Maybe this duo is very good. Maybe this duo is nothing at all. So, let's go on to my number 2 duo now in the NFL, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf of the Seattle Seahawks. Now, Tyler last season had 1,057 receiving yards with 8 touchdowns, and then DK had 900 receiving yards with 7 touchdowns. So this is a very good duo for Russell Wilson, to throw the ball to with that speed and that route running in Lockett, and then DK adds that physical attribute, who is just a brute and can cause separations. I mean, being that he ran a 4.3 340 at 230 pounds. That's ridiculous. That's just like Isaiah Simmons coming in here and running I think it was a 4.35. It's just unheard of. Both of these receivers almost put up 1,000 yards receiving. Both were in the end zone a combined 15 times. So they have to be a number 2 receiving duo. So just be ready to watch this duo tear it up next year. Now, finally, onto my top wide receiver duo in the NFL. And I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. Now, the reason I got these guys number 1 is because Chris and Mike Evans both put up 1,000+ receiving yards, which was better than Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Now, Chris put up, I believe, 1,333 yards with 9 touchdowns, and Mike Evans put up 1,157 yards with 8 touchdowns. So, like I said, really similar to Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. But they both were able to get 1,000+ receiving yards. And not to mention, they got it from Jameis Winston. I mean, to have 2 receivers put up 1,000 yards now is just ridiculous, and it doesn't happen that often in the NFL. I mean, this upcoming season is going to be incredible. They have Tom Brady throwing them the ball. So, I mean, expect them to do the same, but even possibly better. But they also could do a little bit worse because they got Gronk. So right now, as of right now, just because of the numbers they put up together last year, with Mike Evans being, in my eyes, a better receiver than Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin literally just exploded and came out of nowhere last year. I mean, expect it to be more of the Evans and Gronk show than the Chris Godwin and the Gronk show, or the Chris Godwin and Mike Evans show. Chris Godwin's still going to get the ball. He's still going to go in there and get the job done. I feel like they're going to use him more out of a slot, but it also will depend on the formations. So that's my top 5 wide receiver duo, and I gave you my top 10 quarterbacks. That's all for today. We'll see you Friday. Thanks for stopping by, and you just got your fix with the Wicks.